Welcome back folks. Today we're going to be installing the new head unit. I believe that we have got the ultimate head unit to go in the van. Let me show you what we've currently got and then we can move on to installing the new unit. So here's the current head unit we have. It is the Alpine. Really good unit, really happy with it. However, there are a couple of challenges. One, as you can see, I've added this sunscreen because the angle that the dash sits at means that the sun shines on the screen and you can't see it very well. So I've had to include this. The new unit will get around that problem. The second thing is, you'll see up above here we've got the tablet holder, which is really good. It does an absolutely superb job. However, we're going to have the sat-nav integrated into the new head unit. So this will be removed, taken to the back. So we've got those in the back of the van, and I'm going to add a smaller one here for Neat to put her phone on or something like that, or maybe even add it for a camera mount and such like. So this will still be getting used, but won't need to have the tablet mount up here anymore because it's all going to be integrated into the new head unit. When it comes to installing the head unit in the Citroen Relay, the Peugeot Boxer and the Fiat Ducato, the problem is that the CAN bus tends to play up because there's interface that happens that you can control different bits and pieces of the vehicle on the standard head unit. When you swap that out, you end up with flashing lights on the dash and everything. I've got over that by adding in a Connect 2 piece, so I've got that all in there already. However, the new head unit from Pioneer also comes with its own module to enable you to do that, so that Connect 2 unit is going to be coming out. Now interestingly, I do also have front and rear Alpine cameras that run on the control module. Those will still be staying in and they just line straight into the new head unit via the camera in, so I'll still maintain the front and rear cameras that I've got, which are multi-angle cameras, so I don't really want to swap those out, and they won't plug directly into the head unit. There's a little control module that goes on. Because they have their own module, you can install them on any van that has a camera input, so it will work on any head unit, which is really good because they are, like I say, multi-angled, means you can actually look straight down, look backwards, etc. So that's really, really good. Right, let's get on and get this one out and get the new one installed. Okay. So there are some screws in the top here as well as around, so I can actually get in here, but this should hopefully just, the surround should just slide forward for now. There we go. Right. Just a case of unplugging all the connectors. What I might need to do is rerun the mic cable because I'm not sure how that's going to work. And then USB. Right. Well, the aerial came out, so wasn't plugged in. I don't ever use the aerial anyway. So the surround I've got obviously has these brackets on the side. They're going to have to be built into the new unit, which will all slot in, and then it should all hold itself quite nicely. So I'll pop that out of the way for a minute. That's the controls to the unit for the dash. That's the Connect 2 unit. I've got a lot of RCA cables down here as well because there is an amp in here for everything. So I just need to try and pull these cables out. There's quite a lot back here. With the new unit being a single DIN rather than a double DIN, it does mean there should ultimately be more space behind here to enable putting this all back in quite nicely, because it was a squeeze to say the least. Let me get these cables all out and I'll come right back to you. In order to make access easier, I am actually going to take the top document holder off. I've already undone the two screws. There are two screws which are basically on here. There you need to access them inside, and then there's two screws at the back there which go into here. Take them off and then you can lift that out. Do the front ones first and then pull this forward so you can then access the rear ones, and then you can gain access over the top. As you can see, I've already got quite a lot of the cables out. I've just got a few others that go back in behind the fridge section here, or the cooler box as they call it, which I've got to just pull out because there's quite a lot of cable in there, as you can see. I'll get that done and then we're right back. that's the cabling pulled out from below. This here actually looks worse than it is. Because what I've done is, rather than using the standard power live, ignition live off of the van, I've taken it so that I'm running from the leisure battery. I've added an extra switch here to be able to turn the unit on and off. However, because I've got the cameras as well, they need power and everything else, so I've had to add that in. And also there was the connect to part of the module, which is this, and then you have this loom that goes with it and all these cables. So that's all been pulled out. Just gonna tidy this all together and then grab the loom adapter which comes with the Pioneer. So be right back. And here we have the loom adapter lead and plugs, and also the little control module which replaces the connect to one. I'll get this open, start putting the bits and pieces in, and I'll be right back with you once we've done that. There's a little bit of configuring I think I've got to do, but ultimately run it in, connect it up, and then we'll see where we're at. I've got it unraveled now, so we've got the CAN bus controller unit here, the connector which goes onto the standard bit in the vehicle, obviously the antenna, and then the connector to go back to the stereo and the control unit. I am going to have to do some slight changes with this because I need to enable me to take the power from the switch and not from the main loom of the vehicle. So that's the next bit to do. I've now removed a few more bits of the cabling. I've now got the RCA cables which are going to go back here, which will plug into all of that. I've got the main stereo lead which is to catch itself up in the other loom, so there's that, which will interface with the control CAN bus unit. I've got a microphone which I need to check if the microphone that's currently in there will work. I don't think, looking at that pin configuration, it will, so I'm going to have to take all that side out because the microphone is on that side and run that cable back through. I've also got the GPS antenna which has got to go in, and I've also got a USB extension lead, but I've already put the adapter on here which enables you to convert over from the standard generic one that's in the proprietary one that's in the vehicle to switch over to a standard USB. So I won't need to use this one. This will plug straight into the back of the unit. Right, just got to finish pulling a few more of these bits out and then plug in ultimately these bits in, and then we're good to go to kind of start moving stuff forward and putting it back in. Right, so we are there. Big shout out to Paul from Canon Car Audio. I did just have to touch base with him just to ask a couple of questions and just check something. So with this, I take the live from here because I've got the switch. You guys won't need to do this if you're just going to plug straight off with the ignition live. If you're not, then this is the modification you need to look for. So that's my permanent live. There is no ignition live that comes through here, which is the bit that was kind of stumping me a little bit, because it comes from here with the CAN bus, and it's that red one right there which comes up here, which makes this an outward live to work on any other sort of device that needs power. What I'm going to do, I'm going to cut here to separate from the ignition live, take that off as it were, and then I'm going to plug into this and use this as my switch live in, and basically making this so it is the ignition live or phantom ignition live. So that will do that. Right, and then I've got the remote, which is the blue, which I've got to tap into there to go to the other remote to obviously control everything else. So that's the next bit to do, is to basically cut that, seal it, plug in there, pop into the side of that, and then also cut this and pop into the power there. And then also in here is the handbrake, which I've just got to work that one out, and then we're golden. Right, let me get that bit done and I'll be right back. I'll put the connector on now so I can connect this up to the remote lead. Next thing to do is to grab this and ultimately cut this cable here so that I can use that. So just going to cut that one in the middle right there. Right, that in there we don't, this end here we don't need, so I'm just going to take that off, and then this end here I'm going to put a bullet connector on because then it will go into here. Right, Let's do that then, shall we? And there we go, just to connect on, and I'll just take that off just to insulate it properly. There we go, so we've cut it off. The bullet's on there, which will go up into here. It's a case, and I'll take that over. That's sealed off because we're not going to be using that. Next one to do will be the red. Again, repeat the process, cut it off, tape it off, and then use that as my live in from the switch. Now I'm going to connect up the RCAs, which is all the leads go back to the amp. There is also the 2 cameras on here. So the first camera is going to be for the reversing camera, and the second camera is going to be for the interface from the CAN bus. So I'll get these all in, and then they'll be ready just to plug into the back of the stereo. So that bit there goes to the stereo, that bit there's the brain, so it'll be these two, or these 3 here, which will go to the stereo. We've got the USB that's already there as well, so we'll pull that up there for a minute. That will also go to the stereo. We have the antenna back there, and we've also got the second camera out. So the second camera out will connect up with the RCA and go on to camera 2 like that. Lots of cables. So here's the main body of the stereo. It comes in 2 parts. The screen is separate, and you put it on once you've installed everything, which is quite helpful because you haven't got the extra weight of holding the screen, which I think is going to be fun. Anyway, there's 2 cables at the front there, and there's all the stuff around the back. So I'm going to connect this up. All right, it's that way up, which is good. And then on the back we have all the inputs. That one there's the microphone. That one there is for the steering wheel controls. I'll get this all popped into place and we'll see what it looks like. While I've done everything in theory correct, you never know until you power up for the first time. So all the cabling, I just want to test run it. So I haven't connected to the vehicle yet. I haven't connected up the positives yet, which I'm going to do now. Connect those up, connect into the system, and then we'll go from there and see what happens. Right, so live over here, which goes to the battery. Right, that's that one. I've got my remote live, my ignition live, which obviously isn't ignition live, it's actually my trigger. So we'll connect that into there. We've got the cabling for the actual van itself, and the plug is, I don't know if you can see this, is in here. I've got the pull the clip back. And then line the corresponding pins up, and then it locks in solid. In theory, we're ready to go. Moment of truth, it's either going to work or go bang. We have power. Speaker modes. Okay, network mode or standard mode. I have no idea what speaker mode would be with standard or network. Do not use standard mode when the speaker system for the network mode is connected to the unit. This will damage the speakers. Be right back. I'm going to check the manual. Well, consulted with the manual and it just tells you what it says on the screen. So I'm going to guess that it's standard and we haven't got any network things set up. So, okay. Second camera will be PAL. I might actually change that later to the HD because they are HD cameras that are in here, but I don't know. We'll see. Okay. Does the antenna require power? Please set your DAB antenna power settings. Does the DAB antenna... we'll go with yes because that seems to be the default. That's okay. Skip that for now because I'm going to power this all down anyway. Right, let me try and connect a device to it and see if we get any sound. So I paired my phone with it. Let's see if it will play any music. I think the volumes are up here. Although it's not showing anything on the screen. Well, I did say not to connect to Android Auto, but it seems to want to do so. So it's pulled the screen over from my phone. Schoolboy error, I forgot to set up the remote lead so it's not turning the amps on, so we're going to get no sound. Let me sort that and I'll be right back. Just connected it up here, so we'll see if that now works. We now have sound, it going beep beep beep. Right, I'm going to have to mute the music because otherwise I'm going to get... Right, so the audio is working. I'm just going to go and check to make sure it's working on all the speakers, and I'll be right back. I would do it with the camera running, but of course I can't because I need the sound. Speak to you in a sec. I can confirm that all the speakers work, the sub works. It's really loud, the sub, so I'm probably going to have to tweak that and change that around a little bit. The cameras are all set up. I've had to set them to NTSC, oddly enough. I could have sworn they were power cameras, but they're shown as NTSC, but they're a lot brighter on this head unit. So once I get this all in, I'll show you those, obviously. I'm going to power the camera down now. I'm going to pull this all apart, get it all set up, and then work towards putting it inside the dashboard. Be back with you shortly. The light levels are now dropped. I'll put the screens back up. I've been at this all day. The next thing to do is to work out the handbrake. It's quite easy on here because there's a nice long cable. So follow that back in, and it's the fourth one over from the left with the clip up. I'm not sure the camera can pick that up. There we go, like there. So on this one, fourth one over again is green. So it's that one right there. I need to take that one, separate that out, and then run that to the earth that I have here. Generally there's some functionalities that don't work when the handbrake's not on, and sometimes it's just better if actually it's got the handbrake on, because that way it's not for me, it's so that Nick can adjust things like sat nav. Sometimes you can't adjust and bits and pieces unless the handbrake's on, whereas we needed to be able to adjust that while we're on the fly. So I'm going to add in the handbrake and just connect it back there. Just double check the lead before I cut it. Come down here. I'm going to have a bit of length on it because I need that to go back the other way. I'll cut that one. Pull that out so it's up there. And I'll take this one off so it can't do any harm. And then I'll connect that one up to the other cable I've got. That's the cabling pretty much sorted. I've even now put in the HDMI cable. That way I can put like a Fire Stick or another device into the head unit. The other thing we now need to look at, got the surround that's come off of the existing head unit, which I bought from Connect 2. And then I've got the cradle piece which goes onto the head unit with the blanking plate. Now the good thing about this is I've gone for a single DIN version. You couldn't do it with a double DIN version, so there's a like a tray you can put stuff in, but I've opted not to go for that, so that way the cabling and all that lot can sit inside the tray underneath, and therefore allowing more room, because it is quite crowded behind there. Right, I'll get this put together and I'll be right back. I've now got the pieces laid out, so I've connected the front panel by the 2 screws on this side, 2 screws on the other side there. The process involves removing this screw, which I've just undone slightly. The spacer goes on, and then you've got a longer screw to replace it to go in there instead, which then fixes that in place. So I'll just finish taking this screw out, put the spacer in, and then connect it up. Now it's connected up on both sides, and it sits quite nicely flush at the front. The next bit to do is attach it into the cowling, which goes that way up. So the idea is that this will come in from the back, this sticks through, and then this will sit flush in here. That's the cowling now added, so we've now got a complete unit ready to go in. All we've got to do is add the front pieces on, so we've got a spacer and the mechanism holder. There's the front plate, which is just sitting there covering over this space behind, which is where I'm going to put all the cabling and such, so it's just all should nicely sit on top of there. Yes, the sun is up and it is the next morning. Right, the main part of the head unit is in, and the top tray's there. There's a lot of cables obviously behind there. Now the thing is with it, that you need to be able to get all the cables behind, but you need to put the top piece on first. By doing that, it's very awkward because you can't then put the stereo in. Now my plan for the stereo is to actually fix it in with 2 bolts behind to hold it in place, because at the moment it's not held in place, and then I need to be able to put the top on. But to do that I need to modify it. So this is what we're planning. So this is the top unit. These 2 screws here, you put these through and you fix them in basically about here and here, but with this unit in place I can't do that, and this here fixes from behind also, so I can't do that there. So what my plan is to switch these screws in here around, so they go in the other way around, so they sit in there like so, which then means they'll go into the holes that they go through to actually fix into place here in the back of the head unit, just down under here. And then what I'll do is I'll drop the front in, and then the 2 screws that go in the back, which go into here, will hold everything in place. Right, let me finish switching these around and I'll come right back. And here's a modification I've made. So I've put 2 bolts in there. I've made the holes a fraction bit bigger just in here so that it'll go through. And then all I do is I push it in, push those into the 2 slots, that locks in the front end, and then the 2 screws goes in the back. Next choice to make is whether we're going to put the spacer in or not. So here's the spacer, and this is the arm just to go straight on for the screen to fit to it. If you're going to go this way, it is the 4mm by 6mm. if you're going to go with the spacer, it's the 4mm by 30mm, because obviously they have to go through the spacer. When you put the spacer on, you do need to turn it upside down like so, and then these two hooks line up like so, and then it goes through. We're not going to use the spacer, we're going to go straight on, so we're going to use these screws here straight in with the mount. Then we go and attach it to the head unit, and I'll show you how it looks. I've now got the head unit locked into place, and there it is, all solid and locked into place. Just got to add the screen now and then put the top back on. I have done a modification to the top so that I'm able to just slot it in and gain access, because gaining access to that is a lot easier if you're able to go in here. It's a bad design, I think, by Citroen, but I'll get that bit sorted out and we'll go from there. And that's the surround in. The top part's back on as well. The good thing now is I can access behind the stereo without having to take the stereo out, which is quite nice. Got the two cables out that go onto the monitor, and then the mounting point for the monitor, you've got two screws on each side and a locating lug, so you can adjust the height of where you want the screen. So I'm going to go and grab the screen now. I'm going to put it in place. I was hoping to have it sort of here, but it might have to go a little bit higher up, because on this van the reverse is up top left, which gets quite close to the screen, so might have to adjust that about a little bit. There you go, grab the screen and we'll be right back. Right, there's the screen in. All the fixings are in place, the two screws in the side here. Cabling, just mess about with that just a little bit, just to tidy it up, because it was catching a little bit down the bottom. But you got a nice bit of articulation on this. Lays quite the way back, and then comes quite a way forward as well. So that means you're not going to have any problems with sun glare on it anymore. Happy days. Right, and then we've got this cowling that goes over the back, just slots down and hides all the cables and everything, and finishes it off nicely. I'll just get this into place. Okay guys, we've had the unit in for a couple of days now, had a chance to sort of play about with it a bit. Bit quirky using it compared to using the old system. Obviously it's a completely different ecosystem and everything, but we're getting there with it. So we've got a couple of different options that we can go with. Firstly, we've got the camera here, which you just turn on and off, no problems. It has a little cheeky little function here. We press this and it comes back to the menu for a delayed amount of time. I think it's about 5 seconds. Then it will go back to the camera. There you go, without touching it. You can also go to the second camera if you're using it. It's currently set up for the interface between the CAN bus system and that, so that's that. Okay, we'll get rid of that. We have USB audio, and we also have Android Auto. This thing loves to want to connect all the time. It is somewhat annoying to a degree, if I'm honest with you. On the left hand side we do have our volume up and down, also skip and play, stop and mute. There is on here, we go underneath so you can see. You can get your graphic equalizer, you can turn the rear speakers off, check for your notifications, and then you've got your radio, etc. for there. There are some nice little functions in it. Now, because of the way it's set up, we don't actually have the car features on at the moment. I have to have the ignition on for that, but then it will come up and it gives you the ability to access all the stuff in the CAN bus and adjust all of the clocks, etc. And then there are some settings. This is the favourites part, which I've managed to set up, so I've got those set there. And then we've got all different types of adjustments for illumination, etc. Your video inputs, your cameras, your signals. This is for the PX Link app, which is the Pioneer app. It's a remote control basically, but it's quite annoying at times. But there we go, we've got lots and lots of choices in here for bits and pieces. I have set the GPS up. I've got to install the ways that came with it, or synergies sorry, that come with it, for the sat nav, or sync sat nav, that's what it's called. And then you've got illumination settings. You can adjust all the bits and pieces on the screen. Then you've got all your audio settings you can adjust on here, which are very nice. You can save a setting and load a setting as well. And then if they've got a star next to them, it means they're in the top part here. Then you've got your connectivity down the bottom. Now this does require the Wi-Fi to be active on the phone to be able to connect to Android Auto, but it needs to be something that's got a SIM in it, because our tablet doesn't have a SIM in it, and it won't connect to it and run Android Auto because it can't connect out. It normally connects via Wi-Fi in the van. This doesn't seem to want to connect directly to our Wi-Fi in the van. I have turned off auto launch because I don't necessarily want it to auto launch, but it does still seem to try to auto launch. Now back at the main screen, if you select on source, you've then got your different sources you can go to. So connectivity takes you to your phones. You've got Apple CarPlay. We don't have Apple devices, so that's not set up. Android Auto we do have. WebLink I did set up. Oh, hang on, get rid of that. But I disabled it again because I don't know. I'm gonna have to have a play about with that, I think. DAB radio, standard radio, Bluetooth audio, so you can just use like Amazon Music, etc. USB, HDMI, which is really cool, and then you've got an aux input. So USB we've got, so we can set music up on there, no problems at all. It does play some videos, but it does depend entirely on how it's encoded. But the best thing is with the HDMI, you can add extra bits in. Let me just turn that on and I'll show you what it looks like. You will now notice that the HDMI is no longer greyed out. If I select on it, I've added the Amazon Fire Stick, so we can get everything available on Amazon Fire Stick through the head unit. And there we go, guys. It's connected to the network in the van and it's fired up to the home page. From here I can access Netflix, BBC iPlayer, YouTube, Disney Plus, etc. Which is really cool. Next thing to do is install the sat nav. Now it does go onto the phone and links through Android Auto. It comes with this card, and you'll see there's two QR codes. One is for the Apple Store, one is for the Google Store. It takes you to the store so you can download the app onto your phone. On the back of the card there is a QR code which enables you to download your 3 years cover for the actual app itself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to do the QR codes and then we'll be able to set up the sat nav. Once it's downloaded, you'll get this screen. Open up. Obviously you have to turn your location services on. That shows you where we are. Apparently we're moving. That's really good. We're not. We are definitely stationary. And then you go into the free little hamburgery thing. Go down to the sync store. And then you go down to active license, activate a product code, and scan QR code. So once you use it again, only this once. Right, I'll just scan the code, and there we go. It's verified it, and it's now active. Okay, I already have an account, so I'll connect my account. We've now registered it to our account. It's all good. We should now just be able to press Android Auto, and I need to connect to the vehicle, and we're good to go. Go into our apps and we should be able to now select sync. And there we have it. Now it's simply a case of installing the details about the vehicle and we're good to go. And there we go, folks. That's the install of the Pioneer head unit into the Citroen Relay. Very happy with the result. If you do have any questions or comments, please leave them below. If you did enjoy the video, please hit the like button. Also don't forget the subscribe button and notification bell to when the next video goes live. See you in the next video.